All right, that story forms the basis of our discussion tonight. In studio, I have Patrick Juma, who is a political analyst, and Anne Masharia, a journalist, managing editor here at Look Up TV. And also, somebody else will be joining us. Ben Muller will be joining us later on. He is on his way, and he'll be joining this discussion, whereby we want to look at the IEBC numbers. We've looked at, that story was running there, the numbers that have been registered in the second phase of registration and the first phase. And now we want to try and get to understand why did we get to miss the targets. Thank you so much for making time for this discussion here on the Week in Focus. I want to start with you, Anne. We missed the targets again as IEBC. The first phase missed the targets. It recorded at least about 25.3%, if I'm not wrong. And the second phase, again, we missed the target. What are we attributing this to, if you may?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'd start with, I don't know if there's anyone who's shocked, because I'm not shocked, because this is a very overambitious electoral body that keeps on putting targets that definitely they don't hit what the targets they set. Mm-hmm. But from history, look at 2013, look at the 2010 Constitution. From all this, there's always something. There was something that was making these people or Kenyans show up in numbers. Mm-hmm. 2010 was the constitutional changes. So from that history to today, mm-hmm. Wanjiku she has felt like, for me, she has felt like there's nothing that is motivating him or her to show up to even register, because he or she is not resonating to any of the political parties. Okay. But again, we don't have to throw up IEBC under the bus. There's always there are so many factors. Look at lack of civic education. Okay. There's our political parties really mobilizing people to come out in large numbers. That is something we've not seen. So let's not always point fingers at IEBC. For me, there's always so much we can do. But this is an electoral body that for the longest time continues to set targets that they cannot really manage to.
All right. Patrick, answer is we set as IEBC, and say we because I'm part of this country, and we set targets that we can, the IEBC sets targets that it cannot actually hit. Most of the time it gets to miss those targets. She says the political class does not get to mobilize the voters to come and vote, and also mentions something important, that people do not resonate with now what has come to be probably elections, when we promise, probably when leaders get into power, when whatever they promise is not what they deliver. So the Kenyan down there now tends to ask, why should I go and vote? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, thank you, Brent, for having me. I think I really agree with Anne. Because if you look at the the target of IEBC mostly were the youths, and the youths feel that they have not benefited anything from the previous election. So they see their votes as if they don't count, and also I think the civic education has been very minimal, as well as voter mobilization. If you look at 2010 towards 2013 and 2017, there was some bit of voter mobilization, but this time round it was very minimal. So maybe that's why IEBC never met its target.
All right. Yeah. Now, what do we attribute this voter mobilization to? If the people that are supposed to be mobilizing the voters are not doing that, then what could have happened in that camp that is not being felt on the ground at this particular moment?
I think if you look at the current political class, I feel they thought youth will come up and register as they have been doing before, but this has been a very different scenario. I'm from Mathare, Mabatini, and I was looking at our record of voter registration is very low. As much as we've been trying to speak to youth to register, but they ask you what motivates me to register. So it leads you to handouts again, that you have to give a youth a handout to go and register for him to vote, because they don't get any benefits after voting. That's the key thing here.
All right. Yeah. And the issue of handout, let's just, what he's mentioned here, is it a culture that we've created in terms of just having, people are not encouraged by what the leaders will promise them to do for them, but they are willing to go and register as voters if you give them something small?
Yeah, and I totally agree, and I'll tell you this. And most of our register are youths. Kenya counts on youth. They form a huge, they give a bearing to this country's politics. But look at, these are the same youths we are telling to come out in large numbers, and they are unemployed. So you see, in such scenarios, you tend to see the only motivation they have here is a handout. So If I register, what am I getting back?
Okay.
So at the end of the day, these are youths who cannot really resonate with any political party. They're still, the regime or the government does not look into their needs once they get into the government. And these are some of the reasons as to why these youths are asking for handouts. So we cannot really blame them because they are not resonating to any political party. There's a survey that was done last week, and most of the youth, around 54%, really voted to say they cannot resonate to any political party. So they're asking if there can be more parties or the formation of other coalitions. This tells you that there's a disconnect between government, the youth, and the IEBC.
Right.
And that is something we really need to work on.
Okay. People have lost touch, the leaders seem to have lost touch with the ground, with the people on the ground. You agree with that? Because what Anne is saying is that if people are actually looking for something, the people on the ground feel like whatever we have been served ever since probably we were born is not something that we still agree with at this particular moment, and we'd like to see somebody else come in and offer us something new. How are we not in sync together with between the leadership and the people?
I think first and foremost, I think most of the promises of politicians are never fulfilled. So like if you look at 2017, all politicians had their own manifestos. They gave us their promises. But you look at once they were elected and they got into office, they forgot about the manifesto and they were doing their own things. Now they're coming back again to tell us, I was to start this project, give me more 5 years, I'm going to accomplish that. You know, so youths are looking at them and seeing, I think they're playing with our psychology, and they just want to use us and dump us after every election. So that's why you see the youths are not really resonating with any political party at the moment. But I feel maybe as we approach the electioneering period from maybe March or April, I can see some of them will now being attached in different political parties, so that at least they can also have a voice. But as per now, I can assure you most youths are still not decided.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, Anne, let me come back to you. In terms of having an ambitious plan, to register probably 6 million voters and have probably shoot that number to, have a record higher than what we had last time. IEBC, what are we risking in the process of having this ambitious plan in terms of resources? When we put in resources, probably we say we want to register 6 million, but we end up registering 25.3% of that particular. How are we not on the ground to study and look at the mood of the people and realize that probably what we are setting for ourselves is too high?
All right, before we even get to that, let me just add on what Patrick said. And he mentioned something to do with youth and the disconnect that we really have as a country. But let us look at what happened this week when Uhuru, the president, hosted over 6,000 youths in State House. What was the agenda? What was he selling to these youth? Those are questions we really need to ask ourselves. Plus, come to think of it, youths, as I had said, they provide a huge bearing in terms of elections when it comes to this country. But also you have to give them credit because most of them, as much as they are employed, some of them show up, some of them take initiative to do so. And just to go back to your question, what needs to be done? First of all, we need to fund the IEBC. They had 1 billion for their second mass voter registration. But come to think of it, they have extended it for a month. While their funds allocated by the government to IEBC for this one month extension. So that is something we need really to look into. Plus the lack of civic education. What is IEBC doing? Because what we expect is to see them with doing rallies. We need to see them creating awareness. As much as Chebukati is moving from one county to another, mobilizing people, what extra thing are they putting to the table just to make sure that youths come out in large numbers?
All right, and I'd like to engage Ben, who's just joined us moments ago. Thank you so much, Ben, for making time. And we are talking about the numbers that the IEBC released. It has missed its targets by a very big margin. The first phase registered about 25.3%. The second phase registered 1 million. Despite targeting 4.5 million new voters. And Anne mentioned something in terms of voter mobilization on the ground. Probably that has not been done enough to make sure that people come out and register as voters. What would you attribute, from where you sit, the low turnout of voters to?
Foremost, thank you, Brian, for having me here tonight. Every Kenyan who has ever been to school
even up to lower primary level, has a very good understanding of the necessity and the importance of voting. So there is no doubt that every Kenyan, even those who left school at lower primary level, know that voting is a part of their civic duty. But the bigger question we need to be asking ourselves is, the people, the primary population that is being targeted in this voter registration are people who turned 18 since 2017.
Okay.
And these are young people who have been in this country and who have seen it all. They don't need to be told what is going on in this country. My position is that one of the greatest tragedies we are facing is that the average Kenyan does not see any sense anymore in waking up to vote, because it does not make any difference anymore. And the real tragedy has been since 2013. These are young people who probably knew or saw their parents or their guardians running small enterprises here and there. They have seen a lot of these enterprises fold up. According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, by the year 2020, that was even before COVID struck, because we keep, we like excuses and apportioning blame and escaping from responsibility. By 2020, more than 2.3 million small, micro and medium enterprises in this country had folded up. 2.3 million. These are the people, somebody who has started a small kiosk to sell samaki on the roadside, somebody who had started a samosa business, somebody who was running a shoe shine. Those small things folded up. What does that tell you about the economy? These kids we are trying to motivate, and we are blasting them on TV, asking them to register to vote. I've seen their parents downgrade from a position of ability to pay for their school fees to a position of impossibility even to fend for themselves. So that is the real issue. And it doesn't matter, because when you look at a target of 4.5 million against actual numbers of about 1 million, it tells you there is a huge percentage of Kenyans who have completely given up on our political system. And they are not interested anymore, and they really don't care anymore. As far as they are concerned, you can actually put a table like what we have in front of us in State House or in the county governor's office or in the Senate or anywhere, and they are no longer interested, because the average Kenyan has been taken for a ride by the political class for way too long, that now they don't see any sense anymore. And now there is a bigger tragedy. When you look at the political messaging, I like what I saw maybe 2 or 3 days ago, the NCCK coming out and telling politicians, wait a minute, what is this all about? Because now we are about, sijui nani alikuwa anashukisha bendera, sijui nani alikuwa wazimu, sijui nani alikuwa wheelbarrow. Now the political content that we are feeding the people we are hoping to motivate to vote, that cannot even inspire a class 2 kid to want to be a part of that process. So we must change the conversation at the national level, and especially those who are being bandied as the front runners, or those who are being happy being called horses. I don't know why anybody would be happy to be called a horse. Yes.
So you partially answered the question I wanted to ask next, because I want to come to you on this one. Before we get to all this number, we are kind of running out of time, but before we get to what these numbers actually mean for these different political candidates, then what should be the way forward in terms of, we've lost interest, but are we beyond repair in terms of just gaining interest in our political affairs?
As my colleagues have really said, we really have an uphill task in convincing Wanjiku and resonating to Wanjiku now that she or he is already tired. But IEBC need to pull up their socks, given the messaging. The messaging is said, plus the civic education, there's really much that needs to go there. Plus also politicians, we all have, if they want numbers, because 22.1, we have like 22.1 million Kenyans of registered voters up for grabs come August 9. So this is not just a number like that, but we have a lot, especially now that we're in the process of the penalty time, the penalty period, before we head to the August 8, we really have some work to do. Everyone, from politicians to the president, everyone has a role to play.
Right. But Patrick, and I think I'm going to pass on you when it comes to, you know, what we should do, because I think the two of them have answered that quite correctly. But now let's come to what these numbers actually mean for different political candidates, looking at what IEBC has registered. In terms of regions, what I saw was the Rift Valley region, or rather the Rift Valley region actually leading, and the Northeastern region being at the tail end, and it was leading with about 5-point-something million of votes. And I want to get to, you know, understand from your perspective where you sit. Do you feel, in terms of, if we go the traditional way of voting, whereby we vote, somebody said this is my stronghold because I come from this community, are we still in that area, or what has been, you know, what we've been seeing happen on the ground, whereby Raila Odinga is going to Central, William Ruto is going to Nyanza, is going to Western? Is it about to change what we've known for quite most all of our elections?
Yeah, I think as much as I will see DP going to Western, Coast and Central, there's still that element of my home ground. And that still plays a very big role. So as we approach election and look at those figures that have been released by the IEBC, I still believe that maybe somebody from Rift Valley, that is maybe William Samoei Ruto, as well as from Central, they have an upper hand, because their regions have got now bigger numbers in terms of registered voters. So, but again, if you look at our current constitution, you must have like 24 counties, yeah? So this is something, again, somebody has to be very smart, just like in 2017 and 13 was. If I go further, I will look at William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza, maybe might be on the upper hand, as much as we might downplay them, because I know there has been that narrative since Musalia Mudavadi had the earthquake at Bomas, that, you know, Musalia went alone in the Kenya Kwanza. That is not the truth, because since then we have been seeing a number of people maybe coming up to defend Musalia Mudavadi, as well as the real Wanjiku on the ground. You know, as we approach the election, there are so many things that are going to play. And one of it is the real Mwananchi is going to look at who stands, who is going to serve us best. Because those are going to serve the interest of a certain group of people who have been maybe called like projects. And there's one that maybe is seen that can look at the needs of the Kenyan, the common Kenyan person, and then maybe do something. And maybe let me just chip in, as you said, maybe what can be done to IEBC, maybe what can be done to Kenyans to see can we repair or the system already is lost. I think 2022, as we go to August, I think you're going to have a very big task. Those who are going to be elected will repair and maybe can bring change. So as we approach 2027, maybe there will be some changes in terms of voter registration, because if they're going to perform and fulfill their manifesto, then I think we shall not have this discussion going forward that maybe why has IEBC lost its target and so on. Yeah. All
right, and let me come to you. These regions are looking at probably different ways that we've been voting. Who stands a chance of probably being propelled to state house come 2022?
I'm not shocked Patrick is talking of the newly baptized Kenya Kwanza Alliance. But for me, Kenyans have always voted in tribally. Let's be honest. As long as if you're a Kikuyu, you'll always do you'll vote as in mtu wetu, the mtu wetu thing, right? But I'm really interested to see how the 2022 politics play, and I'll tell you why. Look at Rift Valley. We have 5 million registered voters. It is the first region topping the IEBC list. Look at Northeastern,
Okay.
look at Central. These are areas that we have 3.1, 3.0, 2 million voters, right? So, and in us, I'm not trying to say which party I'm in, but if you look at the numbers, look at the game plan of this politics. Let's just narrow it down to Azimio,
Okay.
you know, and let's compare it to Kenya Kwanza. Kenya Kwanza has DP, Kenya Kwanza has Musalia, and Kenya Kwanza has Weta. That's Western, let's say Western region, and also a part of Rift Valley a little bit. And then look at Azimio, where we have Raila. He has a part of Rift Valley, Nakuru, those are counties. We have Lee, who is really working hard in Azimio. So I think, to me, I wouldn't say it's a runoff or anything, but I'd say it's politics to watch come August. And some regions, we won't, the blocks of the regions, we kind of like vote as a, tribal thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something to see come August.
All right.
This time will change. For me, there are states that we won't even have swing states or regions that you'll be shocked. Probably Central will go to, something we've never seen.
You believe, Ben,
Yes.
let me come to you. Central was hot cake.
Yes.
Most of them, when they started these campaigns, they wanted Central Kenya. And we were asking ourselves, what is it about Mount Kenya that everybody wants to climb the mountain?
Yes.
But now it's become Western, because all of them, talk of Kenya Kwanza, talk of the Azimio coalition, all of them are now in Western Kenya. Now, are they so secure about Central that they decided, now let us now start with, Western Kenya?
I would not be in a position to understand the parameters they are working with at the moment, but several things are clear. First, we have a problem with this idea of everybody locking their bedroom, because Kenya is an open society, and it's really such a tragedy that in the year 2022, we are still trying to look at our politics in terms of, Ben is Mulwa, so that must be a Kalonzo person. Brian is a Mwai, that must be a Mudavadi person. Fulani is the other. It's a tragedy. And I think that's part of the problem why IEBC is finding a nightmare, because the average Kenyan is like, so why are we just being lumped around like sardines without any necessary or any objective conversation? That's on the one hand. Secondly, we have, for the first time since 1992, since multi-party elections, we have Central Kenya unable and incapable of producing a presidential candidate. For the first time, Central Kenya is really now shopping around for somebody who would accommodate their interests, political, economic, and social. So that has been the major debate for quite some time. Whether people have been climbing the mountain or whether people have been descending from the mountain is a discussion for another day. But the reality is, Central Kenya is actually the main swing vote in this coming election, because the person who is able to lock the significant chunk of that population has a significant head start. When you talk about Western Kenya, definitely, as it is clear, despite the fact that Mudavadi is insisting that he's on the presidential race, he's coming off strongly as playing second fiddle to the deputy president. So somehow, I don't know what arithmetic they're working with, whether they want to push to the end and then do a plan a runoff, but somehow it is evident that because Western Province does not have a presidential candidate per se, it is going to be another very interesting area. And because of the numbers, I have not seen that kind of flurry in Northeastern, which tells you that it is really about the numbers. It's not so much about the ideology, and it's really so much about getting to State House. Lastly, which I think is very important, for the first time, especially the last two elections, in my assessment, have been fairly tragic, because this country was just broken down into compartments like tiles on a floor. at least now we can significantly say that those who considered Western their bedroom, it is no longer the case.
All right.
Those who considered Nyanza their bedroom, it is no longer the case. Those who considered West Central their bedroom, it is no longer the case. Even the coast, actually, even the same Northeastern. So I think that is quite a shift.
Right.
And that is where the main headache is to the main political formations, because it is no longer business as usual. For example, in 2017, the coast region was entirely locked under Baba and Azimio. It is no longer the case.
Okay.
The same could have easily been said about Western. The same could have even been said about Ukambani. Out of the 3 counties, you realize Makueni County alone voted for Raila in 2017. A higher percentage than even Siaya, Homa Bay, and Nyanza, or the entire Nyanza combined, returning 99% of the presidential vote. It is no longer the case. So this gives, I think this gives hope in the sense that perhaps there could be narratives, or a narrative that is going out there that is resonating with populations that are not homogenic, that are not stuck to their tribal alignments per se, but in terms of what is the agenda and what is the plan and where is our future.
All right.
Yes.
Like Anne said, it is. I think it's something to watch. This is the political season that most people will be looking at. In terms of, he just mentioned that it's no longer the case, no longer business as usual.
No, it isn't. Yes.
We had an earthquake the other day, and that earthquake, as much as people want to dismiss it, others say, okay, we did feel the earthquake, because a lot of people have been talking about that earthquake. In your opinion, because I'm running out of time and I'd like to close this one, but from where you sit, Anne, and just the stories that we've done and been following closely, did we have an earthquake? Has Western Kenya actually tilted a little bit in terms of, supporting William Ruto, because it has been considered Raila Odinga support base?
To be honest, I remember when that time happened, when bombers, we really never expected DP will be there. And it was, I personally was shocked, get to see, I knew his friends at Oka would be there, but when I saw Deputy President William Ruto, it's an alliance I never saw coming, and that tells you that it's on. Like the gloves are now off for different politicians, and but come to think of it and look at the numbers Musalia is from Western region that is bringing it, Kenya Alliance. How many are those? Like 2 million? How many voters? Look at 2017. Those are 2 million votes he got from Western region, compared to all these Rift Valley, Northeastern, compared to other parties. I have not felt the earthquake, but I was kind of shocked by the alliance.
It was a little bit of like a tremor or something.
Yes.
Let me come to you as we wind up. Before I come to your last words here, we're talking about different regions supporting different political candidates, and you're just trying to understand. Western Kenya now seems to be, is being wooed. Most of them have just been there, camping there for almost a week. Do you believe, like she dismisses, there wasn't an earthquake? You, from where you sit, you felt the earthquake, and now looking at the trajectory that our politics is taking, do you feel like probably that Western Kenya bloc is going to be delivered to William Ruto, over 2 million votes?
Yeah, I think Western region is going to be, just like my brother said, central. There will be determining factors. And anybody who will be able to get a highest percentage from Western will definitely carry the day. So as per now, we cannot say William Ruto or Raila Odinga will carry the day in Western. But I think for now, at the moment, we are still at 50-50. But maybe as we approach April, towards May, we might be able now to tell whether it is William Ruto or it is Raila Odinga who is in Azimio. But in terms of earthquake, I think we might not say it happened or not, but I think there is some bit of it. And if you look at what has been happening in Western for the past, was it 1 week? When they camped in Kakamega, they went to Busia. They went, Busia has been the strongest bedroom of Raila or ODM. In fact, if you look at the 47 counties, I think Busia is one of the strongest supporters of Raila. But I think things are shifting. I was speaking to some people from Busia, and I think things are really shifting towards Kenya Kwanza.
All right.
Yeah.
And your last words now, just looking at the numbers, and I'm going to give you each 30 seconds to just respond to this one. Looking at the numbers that the IEBC released the other day.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked about, you know, having a different kind of politics that we are expecting to experience this year. But in terms of voting, Ben, you said we are not voting traditionally. Are we voting traditionally?
No, I don't think so. There are a lot of things that have changed, and the primary driver here is the history I gave earlier about what Kenya has been for the last 10 years. That is actually the main issue in this election, because there are people who had thriving businesses, thriving professions, and thriving activities, income generating activities that have been affected massively. This debt story we keep talking about is not just a story.
Okay.
It has had an actual impact even up to the last person in this economy. So the main issue today is the economy, and this has actually influenced the shift that we have continued to see. And mark you, those who are able to articulate issues economy and come up with a roadmap that makes sense to the average Kenyan out there have an upper hand. But there's the good news. As it stands, I am yet to place any, even of the front runners, who can confidently say they can clock 10 million votes today, based even on the numbers we have, and based on the tribal arithmetics that everybody is doing. Secondly, I am yet to see any of them who is close to clocking 50%, let alone 50 plus 1.
50%.
So there is a lot of work to be done.
All right.
Yes.
I think because of time, my director tells me I'm out of time. And let me just, 30 seconds. Ben has taken quite a lot of your time, but 30 seconds here. Let's look at, in terms of, we've seen a very low turnout when it comes to registration. Do you feel we will also, because we've talked about people not resonating with the politicians. Now, when we come to start voting, are we also expecting, probably, from where you sit, low turnout of voters who are, people who are going to vote actually?
It will take a really good message, or a politician who can coin a message that really resonates with the Wanjiku. And as I said, we have 21.1 million voters up for grabs. And it's all about the game plan 2022. The politicians zoning and mapping the areas, they definitely know they can win the election. As Ben had really said, it will be difficult for them, but it's something to watch.
Patrick, now you have the closing word. I started for me, but now I think I need to end with you too. In terms of voting, just from what I had asked Anne, you feel like, you are a politician, what kind of message would you give the people to start resonating with your ideology so that they come out and vote in large numbers?
Thank you so much. I think you said right. You said rightly. I'm also a politician, and I'm vying in 2022. I'm vying Mabatini as an MCA, and I think one of the things that will motivate the voters is giving policies that are practical. I will do this and these things that can be achieved within the 5 years time. Sometimes we give promises that are unachievable. So right now people are, like my brother Ben was saying, people are really looking at politicians and their promises. Are your promises achievable? Are they measurable? Can they be achieved within this specified time? Or these are just the usual promises that are given every other time?
All right. Thank you so much, lady and gentlemen, for gracing this discussion here. Ben Mulwa, who is a governance consultant, and Masharia, managing editor, look up to it, and Patrick Juma, who is a political analyst and also vying. You are a politician, like I said earlier, and you're vying to be a member of county assembly here in Nairobi, Mabatini, right? All right. I'd like to take some of your feedback here. Nelly Andrews says, tuned from Westlands, the enthusiasm is on another level. Calvin Kodalo, wow, nice story about Sikam. That is based on a story that we ran earlier. Ken Eugene Anangwe says, Kazinjama team, great job, great coverage, a discussion worth having, even more as we head towards August 9th. Thank you so much, sir. And Seli Nyangere, when you have dreams, it always drives you to go beyond what people expect. It's a good start. Sikam. That's based on the story that we learned earlier. Ochieng Sylvian, from my perspective, why young people are reluctant to register as voters, it's because there is a growing sense of betrayal among most Kenyans, especially the youth, who feel politicians increasingly use them as collateral damage in the web of personal reinvention and self-preservation. Kenyan youth understand politicians as people who want to use them to ascend to political power. Now that's a very strong take.
Yeah.
And I think you're retweeting that, right? You're actually agreeing with that. Mutindi Christine says, good job, my friend. Thank you so much for watching. Emmanuel Simiyu tuned in from Kihoko. I read that earlier. Sally Daniels, looking forward to the discussion. And also you say, now this is it. What an engaging and timely conversation. Why is it that IEBC is frustrating some of us who want to change our polling station? Yes, we already have voter apathy. I think because of time we'll not be able to be looking into that, but we'll find time and also get into that and just try to find solutions to some of the issues that are affecting society. Now, Joy Mark says, how many young people over the age of 18 years are still without national identity cards? IEBC offices inconveniently located. All right, great bulletin tuned in from Withiru. There are so many feedbacks here and I wish I could go through all of them, but because of time, I think we'll have to end it there because some of us need to start going to the men's conference. Those will be going to the men's conference. Sorry, Al-Masharia, if you had plans, but yes, that does it for us here on Look Up TV Weekend. This segment has been the Week in Focus. My name is Brian Amwai. Keeping engaging with us on our social media handles, Amwai Brian on Twitter at Look Up TV. You can find us on Facebook. We are on Twitter and also on YouTube. Yeah. Have yourselves a lovely night. On behalf of everybody that has made this a success, I want to thank you for watching.